It's a great view of Swindon from up here in Old Town. I'm Paul Lancaster, and for many years I produced Swindon's local channel on Swindon Cable. Now, one of our popular features was a look at local history, Swindon through the years, comparing the pictures of the past with those of today. Well, in this Swindon's 175th anniversary year, we thought it'd be appropriate to do more of the same. This time we're turning back the clock 31 years to 1985. The clips were all recorded as part of Swindon Cable's news programme Focus on Swindon that reported on news and events all over the town. In this programme we're off to the town centre. We'll be in Wharf Green, we'll be remembering how Regent Street looked, Canal Walk and the Brunel Center. So enjoy our look back at a changing Swindon, and remember at the end, please do like, comment or share. I'd like to hear what your views are. Sit back and enjoy Swindon through the years. Delving into the Swindon Cable archive, we're turning the clock back to 1985 and discovering forgotten sites of a changing town as we take another look at Swindon through the years. It's 1985 at Wharf Green and the sun is shining. The upper floor of the building in the background housed the popular indoor Brunel market, where the curved glass roof can be seen were steps from street level to the market. This was all swept away when this part of the Brunel was redeveloped in the 1990s to accommodate what was at the time the town's new prestige flagship store, House of Fraser. As we turn the clock forward 30 years, we see it's not just the buildings that have changed. Even Wharf Green's been transformed. The green spaces of the 70s have disappeared to provide a square for public events. New trees have been planted and the whole area paved over. It can clearly be seen that the stylised curved awning that surrounded the Brunel Center has been replaced with a much less appealing flat glass roof. In the 31 years that have passed, Norman's has disappeared, replaced by Argos, and the red and yellow signs of McDonald's have turned to green. Well, here's a view in Regent Street looking down towards Canal Walk on the corner of the Brunel Center. The shop on the corner is now a jeweller's, but turning back the clock 31 years and we find it's Halford's. Street furniture, paving slabs have all been replaced. Many of the shops have changed too. No longer does the town centre play host to the likes of Woolworths, Littlewoods and now even British home stores. Many local people will remember the familiar names of department store McIlroy's and Norman's for carpets and furnishings. Perhaps the saddest feature is now when the sun goes down and the shops close, the centre is all but deserted. Those streets of old houses, just a distant memory. Well, here's a once familiar sight in Swindon, the location just outside the old McIlroy store next to Parker's Cafe in Regent Street. It's the town's well-known flower seller, Stan Pine. For many years it was just about the only place you could buy flowers when you were in town. Many a mum on Mother's Day would have had flowers from here. Today, the spot is almost forgotten. The council clamped down on street traders, and despite enormous opposition, they were forced out of town. The McIlroy store has also gone, and a newer building with much less character now sits in this prime location. It's a sign of the times, but no longer can you just grab a bunch of flowers on your way past. Our next view is unusual. We're almost at ground level, and there's snow on the ground. Lloyd's Bank occupied this corner to the left before the Brunel was built. The shop in the distance is that of Peter Richards, popular ladies' clothing shop when this view was taken in 1985. The same view today, no curved canopy, and those shoppers some 31 years older. Well, here's the view looking along Canal Walk in 2016. Now we're about to turn the clock back to the mid-1980s. This is roughly where the controversial fountain now sits. This was once the site of the canal through the town. In our view, Burton's occupies the corner shop on the left. The building on the right once housed the local tax office and was totally demolished and rebuilt. All the bins and seats have been replaced in our 2016 view some 31 years later. It clearly shows the curved awning around the Brunel and the much less impressive replacement today. Here's the same spot but looking in the opposite direction. It shows the original BHS building on the left and the popular town centre newsagents on the right. The BHS building was demolished and newer units built in its place. The building to the right still remains, although the newsagents have long since gone, replaced in a sign of the times by one of the town's many phone shops. The raised flower beds and even the concrete awnings have also gone to create a much more open public space in the centre of town. The Brunel Shopping Centre was unveiled for the very first time on the 29th of March 1973. It transformed the centre of the town as old houses were pulled down to make way for a modern retail centre. It dramatically changed the very heart of Swindon. Our view from 1985 shows the original layout with the plaza open to the glass roof. It provided a venue for numerous displays, exhibitions and marketing events and was ideal for the 1980s youngsters and the craze of breakdancing. Today the view is very different. There's an additional floor in the Brunel. Escalators, lifts and stairs take shoppers to the upper level. The ends of the plaza now has doors and can be closed off at night, when once it remained open to people and the elements. The centre has had a complete makeover as part of the battle to compete with out-of-town stores. The dramatic 1970s styling still looks contemporary almost 50 years on, and it still remains the main retail centre for the town. With shops constantly being replaced, it's easy to forget how the centre looked and the choice of shops 31 years ago. Even the style of Christmas decorations brings back memories. This is our 1985 view of the 1960s built Debenhams building. It now houses just the well-known store. The offices above, once used by Hambro Life, have long been vacated. The high street store was originally known as Bon Marché or Bon Marche by locals until rebranded Debenhams in the mid-1970s. Today, 31 years later, little has changed in this view, although in the intervening years the area was under one of the many big top style awnings. That's now been swept away and no trace remains. The 1960s buildings are showing their age, and I wonder if they'll still be there in another 30 years. And finally, number 1 College Street. It's right in the town centre and has had many uses over the years. It's been a cafe and is currently home to one of the town's Prospect charity shops. Turning back the clock to 1985, it's a local branch of the Leeds Permanent Building Society. The Leeds was one of the major societies with branches all over the country. The Leeds name disappeared from the High Street altogether when it merged with the Halifax in 1995. Today the Prospect Hospice has its College Street shop in the building, where cash once changed hands for a very different reason. The pedestrianisation has been extended just to the right of the shop and for a number of years provided a pavement cafe. It shows that even a town centre side street has its history, unlocked with a few images from the Swindon Cable Archive. Delving into the Swindon Cable Archive, we're turning the clock back to the 1980s, discovering forgotten sites in a changing town. Another look at Swindon through the years.